Hello, and welcome to Competitive Communicators, where you only compete against yourself. I'll be giving a brief explanation of how to use a Zoom session, which is how we're hosting this meeting tonight. In the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you'll see a microphone. It says mute. Please use this if you are not the speaker so you don't interrupt who's speaking. Next, you'll see a stop video feed. You'll want to use this if you need to eat a snack or get up from your computer for any reason. But when you return to your computer, please share video so we can see your lovely smiles. And of course, we have the chat feature. When you click on this button, it'll open the chat window where you can chat to the entire room, or by clicking on this down arrow, you can select a specific person, such as one of our speakers, and leave them a note that said something about you really enjoyed about what their speech was, or something you saw that might help them the next time they speak. And of course, it is our policy that participating in our meeting, you agree that recording will be available publicly on our YouTube channel, website, and other public media. So welcome again to Competitive Communicators. While we're waiting for our president to join us, I'll go around and ask everyone to give a brief introduction to themselves, who you are, where you're from, and how long you've been a member of this club. I'll begin with myself. My name is Trish, and I live near Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, which is a very historical town. I've been a member of this club for over a year, almost a year and a half now. And I will now introduce our next lovely lady, who will be Sunny Fridge.
I was wondering which lovely lady you were talking about.
We have so many to choose from.
Right. I looked and I was like, who's she talking about? Okay. Well, hello, everyone. It is so exciting to be back. This is April, and we have members who have decided to come back, and they feel that the benefits of Toastmasters with competitive communicators is worth it. So thank you all. I'm Sunny Fridge, your Vice President of Education. I've been a member of Toastmasters for 3 years. It'll actually be 4 years in October. I'm working on my Distinguished Toastmaster Award, and I'm very excited. So back to you, Madam Sergeant at Arms.
Thank you so much, Sunny. Next, I would like Adrianne to introduce herself.
Hello, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, if we have any guests today. I am Adrianne. I'm currently in southeastern Arizona. I have been a member of Toastmasters for 3 years now. I've been a member of this club for 3 months, I think. And with that, I am also your Vice President of Membership. So I've taken on this new role, and I look forward to working with all of you, as well as building my leadership skills in this role that I've taken on. All right, back to you, Sergeant of Arms.
Thank you so much. Next lovely lady is Cheryl. Cheryl, would you please give us a brief introduction to yourself?
Thank you. Madam Sergeant at Arms, I am Cheryl Poirier. I'm coming from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I've been a Toastmaster for 14 years, I think. I lose track. 14 years and a member of this club for 6 months. I have learned so much in here. I'm very glad I joined. Back to you, Tricia.
Thank you. And the last lovely lady that is currently with us, Isabel, would you please give us an introduction to yourself?
Thank you, Madam Sergeant at Arms. Well, I've been a Toastmaster for 5 years, and I think today is almost like an anniversary for me to join this online Toastmasters. I think it has been a wonderful journey with this online club. I just want to add a little bit thing about my community event last Saturday. After the event, one parent approached me. They said they have youth Toastmasters, and also in the Chinese school, and they hope me to pay a visit, maybe help them to arrange some guest speakers. I felt it was a great honor. I don't know what I can help. I don't think I would be good enough to be a guest speaker, but I will try my best to find somebody for them. Well, back to you, Madam Sergeant at Arms.
Thank you. On to our very handsome gentleman this evening. First, I will ask William to give a brief introduction to himself.
Thank you, Madam Sergeant. Thank you, Madam Sergeant at Arms, fellow Toastmasters, future Toastmasters. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. My name is William Thomas. I am from Hollywood, Florida. I have been a Toastmaster for 17 years, a member of Competitive Communicators almost 2 years, and with Adrianne, I work on the Vice President of Membership team. And let's make this club a great club, more powerful than it ever can be. Madam Sergeant at Arms.
Thank you so much. Our next gentleman, Harry Johns. Harry, would you please provide a short introduction to yourself?
Okay. My name is Harry Johns. I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I've been a member of this club for about an hour, and my membership got messed up at TMI, and I joined at first in 1967, and been here for a while, got a couple of DTMs, and back to you, Madam Sergeant at Arms.
Thank you so much, Harry. And last but not least, Jay. Jay, would you please give us an introduction to yourself, please?
Unmute yourself.
Good morning, I'm Jay Parke. I'm from Bangalore, India. I'm a Toastmaster since September last year and a member of Competitive Communicators just from 1st April this year. I've done my path EC and I'm pursuing 2 more paths, presentation mastery and humorous path, and hope to give more speeches now online because I have moved away from brick and mortar clubs totally. So I'm also a member of Global Trainers Online. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jay. Well, seeing that we have not yet had our president join us, I will take this time to introduce you to our Toastmaster of the day. Our Toastmaster today is Sunny Fridge from
Mississippi.
Mississippi. She's a New York girl in the Mississippi world.
All right.
Please help me welcome Sunny.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tricia, our Sergeant at Arms, and Jack or Jill of all trades, many trades. So it's not quite 7 o'clock. So what I'd like to ask, and I'll start with myself, is this is National Poetry Month, and does anyone have a line of poetry or a favorite poet that they'd like to share?
I've got a poem that I used in proposals.
Okay, go ahead, Harry.
Your glance can make me weak. Your smile can cure my ills. Let us please get married so my salary can pay your bills.
Okay, well, is that original? Is that original?
No one else would claim it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sure someone appreciates that. Okay, thank you very much. I'll say that one of my favorite lines that I remember from childhood is by the great poet during the Harlem Renaissance, Langston Hughes. And I use this in my speech sometimes when I talk about dreams. And it goes, hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is like a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. And I often think about it, and people have even come up to me and said, I wondered who that was by because I learned that in school when I was a kid. And that's the same with me. So that's my line of poetry I wanted to share with you as part of National Poetry Month, which, by the way, I made a note, was organized by the Academy of American Poets in 1996. And it has become the largest literary celebration in the world. William, did you have a poem?
Yes, it's something I actually wrote. When I see you, my heart breaks. When I look at you, a smile comes on my face. When I'm in your presence, the sun shines so bright. Will you be mine? Will you be mine? Will you be mine? Madam Vice President of Education.
Oh, that is so good. I like it. I love it, actually. Wonderful. Anybody else like to share a line of poetry?
I would like to share one poem I wrote at the age of 16. I am a published poet, but I have a pseudonym that is Corporate Bard. So most of my poetry has been on the corporate life. This one was written at the age of 16, and it's titled Mastery in Servitude. Now here the servitude means service plus attitude. It starts like this, that a young boy of 16 is aiming to attain a top position in a business enterprise with honesty, goodness, justice and truth, with zest for works of public good, and to realize mastery in servitude. So that led me to finally become post-retirement a humanitarian. Thank you.
And thank you. What a words of inspiration, servitude. Like it a lot. Okay, we are just 2 minutes away. Anybody else? Okay.
One of my favorite lines is from William Shakespeare. It's very short. A rose by any other name smells as sweet.
I love it. I remember a friend of mine, he had written a poem, and it was something like, I woke up this morning and the sun was shining. I closed the blinds and then the sun was still in my eyes. And I realized it wasn't the sunshine outside, it was the sunshine on my mind. And I'll always remember that poem. Okay. So with that, we have just a minute and a half left. And if there's nothing else, although I don't like starting early, I wanted to say that, again, welcome back to everyone. Thank you for renewing. There are ways that you can all participate. If you would, at the end of this meeting, please take advantage that we still have some roles to fill for next week, and consider doing that. We do have a Toastmaster of the Day, and so I'm really happy about that, and we'll speak about that later. Let's see if there's anything else to mention. Okay, well, I am going to begin and just say welcome to everybody. Thank you for joining us today, April 2nd. And we're no fools. We had our meeting today. And thank you again for joining us. And we always start our Toastmasters with words of inspiration. Today, they will come from fellow Toastmaster Isabel Kadori. Isabel?
Thank you, Madam Master. Well, maybe my inspiration is a little bit away from today's theme, because our theme is very poetic, and my inspiration is about money. I was reading Susie Orman's book. She's an influential speaker and educator on personal finance. Here's some words of admonition from Susie. Money alone will never make you happy. Lack of money sure will make you miserable. You are to live below your means, but within your needs. If we all understand the relationship between money and the happiness, and we all live by the principle of Susie Orman, there would have been many more happy families in the world. Back to you, Madam Toastmasters.
All right. Okay. Or some places that they do when you hear poetry, you snap. All right. Thank you so much, Isabel Kadori, for those words of inspiration. We're going to begin our meeting now, and we have 3 parts to our meeting. The first part is prepared speeches. The second part is thinking on your feet, our table topics. And the third part of our meeting is listening. So we hope that if you're a visitor, that you enjoy it today. I see a few members have signed on. We still need someone to be the body language monitor. If there's anyone that will do that, I'll call on you in a moment. The eye counter role is also open. And Rolando, are you here? Because we have helpers. We could not do this meeting without our helpers. So if Rolando, you are here, please sign on. If not, I will just say, because I do not see him listed, I'll give him a chance. Well, I would like to say that the eye counter and grammarian make notes of all the ahs, the ums, and they help us to be aware when we use filler words. For grammarian, we also have someone who should be taking note of any words that are incorrect or even exceptional during this meeting. So that's what the eye counter grammarian would do, and I hope that Rolando will join us shortly. Next is chat monitor, William Thomas. William?
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and future Toastmasters, my job as the chat monitor is to be looking at the chat and see what are the buzzwords for today and give a report on that when called upon by the Toastmaster of the day. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chat Monitor. We will also have a timer, very important, especially when you're in a contest. You don't want to go over, you don't want to be under. Cheryl Poirier, tell us your role.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. I will be timing all segments of the meeting, but particularly looking at the prepared speeches, table topics, and the time for the evaluators. When you have reached the minimum time, you will see this. When you're getting close to the end of your time, you will see this. And when your time is up, you will see this. Back to you, Madam.
Thank you very much, Madam Timer. So before I move forward, just want to correct, because we move and we think on our feet, is there anyone who does not have a role who would volunteer to be grammarian eye counter for today?
Actually, Rolando just popped in.
Wow, Rolando, so nice of you to join us. Rolando, please explain your role as grammarian, and I hope you brought us a word of the day.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. The word of the day is poetic. And as a grammarian, my duty will be to watch and listen for proper English and watch for colorful and expressive language and keep track of use of proper English. I will then provide a report at the end. So the word of the day again is poetic. And poetic means of relating to poetry, which is supposed to be our theme tonight. So please use the word of the day. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Rolando, for those words. And poetic. Poetic is the word of the day. At this time, we are going to start with our prepared speech. Our first speaker, and only prepared speaker today, so we're going to have a lot of table topics. Our first speaker is Adrianne Pearson. Adrianne has been a member of Toastmasters for 3 years, and she's currently pursuing her Advanced Communicator Bronze Award. As a scientist, it is paramount for her to be able to communicate well among cross-functional teams, especially when the topic is more in-depth technical discussion. And as a business owner, she must learn to get comfortable with promoting her business as well as herself. Her speech tonight is from the Advanced Persuasive Speaking Manual, Project 1, The Effective Salesperson. She and fellow Toastmaster Cheryl Poirier will play a role play. First, Adrianne will do a 3 to 4 minute speech explaining the persuasive process in sales. Then, she and Cheryl will role play for 3 to 5 minutes. Finally, she will have a 2 to 3 minute discussion with other Toastmasters and the audience. The title of her speech is Becoming the Salesperson. Please help me welcome Toastmaster Adrianne Pearson.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster Sunny, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. The salesperson. The pushy salesperson at the furniture store. The unwanted solicitors knocking at your home door. The car salesman. These people are one of the most dreaded people to encounter during your shopping experience, and with good reason. Not only are they virtually impossible to avoid, one of my techniques is when I go into a store and I notice that the wolf packs are staring and coming at me, I immediately look down. I want no eye contact with salespeople. Not only are they hard to avoid, however, a lot of them are just terrible. They're terrible salespeople. Another interesting aspect of salespeople is that not only do we encounter them on a daily basis in our everyday lives, but we ourselves are salespeople too. For instance, you know that annual review that your boss gives you? This is a part where you need to sell to your boss all the projects that you've completed the past year, how you went above and beyond. Ergo, you're looking for that raise in your salary. Or what about a destination you want to take for your annual vacation? You need to sell your significant other on spending the money to go to that destination, as well as all the other activities that you wanted to do during that destination. Or better yet, did you participate in a youth organization when you were a kid, either selling cookies or magazines for fundraising? All of these are sales. You're selling either for an organization or for yourself. And it doesn't have to be a dreaded task. With simple techniques that I will share with you this evening, becoming the salesperson should be easy. First, you need to build rapport with the buyer. Let's face it, nobody likes doing business with those that they don't like. So to start building that trust, you need to start off with small talk. Second, you need to find out what the buyer's goals and needs are. As a salesperson, you have to understand it's not always about you as a salesperson or the product that you're trying to push to the seller. You need to have a really good understanding of what the buyer's needs and goals are. And you do this by asking appropriate and choice questions. And last, you need to solve the buyer's problems. You introduce solutions for the buyer based on what you actively heard while listening as you were questioning the buyer on what their goals and needs were. The next part of my speech, I will be doing a role play with Cheryl. Cheryl is a customer who is coming into my vacuum store, and I'm the salesperson. Okay, at this point, I'd like to start our role play. Hi, welcome to our vacuum store. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine. And I think I need a new vacuum cleaner. That's why I'm here today.
Oh, wow, you came to the right place. Are you looking for a vacuum for your home or office?
I'm looking for one for my home.
Okay. And what type of vacuum do you currently have?
Well, frankly, it's a piece of junk. Now,
I've encountered one of those too, believe me.
it was something I got from Sears, and now this whole chain is closed down. I can't get it repaired. I can't get any parts. It won't suck up anything.
Okay, that sounds terrible. Well, let me ask you, do other family members use the vacuum as well, or is it just you?
I wish other family members used it. No, it's just me. I'm in charge of the vacuuming.
Yeah, I'm typically the vacuum cleaner at home too. I understand. How old is your vacuum?
It must be about 16 years old.
Ooh, it is time for a new vacuum. Okay. And how often are you using your vacuum?
Well, I'm trying to use it about once a month.
Okay. And is it a stand-up vacuum or the other vacuum with a long cord?
Well, I would say it's supposed to be a stand-up vacuum, but mostly it just falls down.
Yeah, based on the age,
we'll go with stand-up.
Stand-up. Okay. All right. It's an upright vacuum. Okay. And what type of surfaces are you vacuuming?
Oh, every type. We have vinyl, we have stone, we have carpet, and we have wood.
Okay. And besides it being a piece of junk and it's fairly old, how well is your vacuum working for you?
It really only seems to work on the wood and the vinyl. It doesn't seem to pick up anything on carpet.
Okay, I see. Well, come on over. I'm going to show you what I currently sell top of. And this is a product that I just like to share with you. And this is the Shark. Now, the Shark is very lightweight. It's an upright vacuum. It is about that big. And the thing I like most about it is you no longer have to mess with vacuum bags. You just take the container out, put it over the garbage, press this button here, and it all comes out. This vacuum works very well in multiple different surfaces. It's very lightweight. I can pick it up with one arm. The cord is long enough to where I can vacuum multiple rooms in various times during my vacuuming. I'm able to vacuum not only the surfaces in my home, but I also vacuum my rugs outside and my car, and believe it or not, even the dog bed. It's a fabulous vacuum, and it is $150 for a purchase today with a 30-day money-back guarantee if you don't like it. Now, you mentioned you do indoor housing. The downfall with the Rocket is it does have a small beater bar. So I'm going to recommend that you consider and think about a rainbow vacuum. Unfortunately, I don't sell rainbow vacuums, but Vince, who is 3 doors down, does. So if you head out my store, take a left, go 3 doors down, and go talk to Vince, let him know I sent you, and I'm sure he would be happy to show a rainbow vacuum for your needs. I'm really sorry I wasn't able to help get you a new vacuum today, but I wanted to make sure that you get something that you are really specifically looking for, and I really think that the rainbow vacuum is going to do best for what you need.
Well, thank you so much. I was hoping to do this in one store, but I'll be better off if I get the one that will suit my needs.
Oh, I understand. Thank you so much for coming in today. Thank you. And at this point, I would like to have an informal discussion with my audience as well as my role player with Cheryl. I would like to ask How did the audience like the techniques that I used for selling the vacuum? And
So-
anyone can answer.
So I just jump in?
Yes, please do. Jump in.
Okay. Adrianne, I thought you did an excellent job as a salesperson. You were friendly. You weren't overly over the head. You trying to really ascertain what her needs were, what she was currently doing, and how you could help her with the product that you were selling. So I just appreciated that you really went into depth questions that I personally would have not thought of. It's like, oh yeah, that's an excellent question. I would have never thought of asking that. So I just wanted to commend you that you asked some really detailed, probing questions, but weren't over the head like a salesperson sometimes is.
Like that pushy salesperson.
Yes. Don't you need? But yeah, I thought you did an excellent job.
Thank you. Any others?
Yes, next, Adrianne.
Yes.
I thought you did a terrific job. Thought that the questions you asked were appropriate and considerate for the project, for what she was looking for and what you thought might help her. And the one thing I loved about what you did was recommending her to another person, that you did not have the product that she needed. If I had been your customer, I'd be a return customer to you. I really would. Because you gave me, even though you couldn't help me, you passed me to someone that could help me. So in the future,
Gotcha.
I may recommend you to a friend of mine's.
Excellent. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Well, with that, I am grateful for my first speech. Thank you very much. Thank you, Cheryl, for participating and role-playing with me. And at this moment, I will turn the meeting back over to our Toastmaster, Sunny.
Thank you very much, Madam Salesperson. Persuasive speaking, it definitely was. At this time, timer, please give us 1 minute on the clock so that we can give some feedback, some more feedback in written form to our speaker, Adrianne. 1 minute. Thank you, timer. Thank you again, Adrianne, for your speech, and congratulations as you pursue the Communicators Advanced Communicator Bronze Award. I'm very inspired by you. At this time, it's time for the second part of our meeting, Table Topics, Thinking on Your Feet, and we have one of our favorite table topic masters, Isabel Kaduri. Isabel?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Well, National Poetry Month is a celebration of poetry, which takes place each April, was introduced in 1996 and is organized by the Academy of American Poets as a way of increased awareness and appreciation of poetry in the United States. So today's topic is all about poetry. Our members and guests have the opportunity to give an impromptu speech for 1 to 2 minutes. Please speak at least 1 minute. If your speech is over 2 minutes, you will see a red signal from our timer. At that point, please wrap up in 30 seconds. Madam Timer, how many speakers can we have for today?
We are incredibly ahead of time.
Okay, I think the maximum I can come up with is 10.
Yeah, I think.
Good.
Aim for 6, and then we'll see, okay?
Okay. I will ask you maybe around 7 or 8, see whether we should continue. Okay, so let's get started. My first topic is about who is your favorite poet in the past or the current time? Who is your favorite poet? With this question, I'm going to call our Sergeant at Arms, Tricia Grow. Tricia, would you like to talk about it?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, believe it or not, this is actually a really difficult question because I have several favorite poets. One I mentioned earlier is William Shakespeare, but I have to admit, there's someone I love just a little bit more, and that is Edgar Allan Poe. He is a poet as well as a storyteller, and he is a little on the darker side than William Shakespeare. Although William Shakespeare did write Romeo and Juliet, which is not the most lighthearted tale. But I started reading Poe and I was definitely in middle school. So 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, that time of my life. And he inadvertently introduced me to Stephen King because they have very similar tones and they write on very similar subjects. So my love of poetry and short stories started with Poe and Shakespeare, and now I still enjoy them to this day, but Stephen King is along for the ride. Back to you.
Well, thank you, Tricia. I can tell you have a great taste for poetry. My second question is, who is your favorite, what's your favorite poem? What's your favorite poem? With this question, may I call Matt Smiddle? Matt, would you like to answer this question?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters and guests. My favorite poem. I don't know. I have a favorite slasher movie, though. I like horror movies. I can talk about that. Poetry, to me, I'm right down in the middle. I don't love poetry. I don't really like it, but I don't hate it either. So I'm right down the middle when it comes to poetry. If I had to name some poems, I would not be able to name any. If I had to name some poets, I can name maybe a couple. Maya Angelou is one that comes to mind. And that's it, basically. I don't know a lot of poets. I remember in high school, we had to do poetry, and I dreaded that. We had to write poems, and we had to read various poems from different poets. I did not really enjoy that as much. So to answer something about poetry, I right down the middle, like I said, I don't have a favorite poet or a favorite poem either. But I do love slasher movies, horror movies like Friday the 13th and Halloween. I could talk about that for a long time. But I see the green, so I will stop here and maybe do a speech on horror movies. Thank you, Madam Tabletops Master.
Thank you, Matt. I completely share the same feeling with you. If I have to take a poetry class, that would be very dreadful. Well, my third topic is related to an ancient Chinese poem. Please listen carefully. The poem says, "Moonlight reflects off the front of my bed. Could it actually be the frost on the ground? I looked up to view the bright moon and looked down to reminisce about my hometown." I would like to call on Rainy. Rainy, how do you think about this poem? I know you must have heard of this poem in Chinese. Rainy, are you there?
Yes. Yes, I'm here. Well, I think this poem is quite familiar to most Chinese people, like no matter kids or adults or old people, they must be very, very familiar with this poem because that's the one that we used to recite when we were kids. And it's telling it is written by a very famous poet, and he's telling people how he missed his hometown very much. And actually, I think there are many Chinese poems that are very, famous around our country, and they are written in old Chinese, which is a little bit difficult for ordinary people to understand. And I remember when I was in primary school or even high school, I tried to read all the poems that are written in old traditional Chinese, but they're really, really hard to understand, and I can't recite all of them. So I remember that I got very low grades in my Chinese classes. That they're very beautiful. I can see that those poems has very wonderful meaning with limited words, and we have a history of kinds of poems for like thousands of years. So I hope that one day I could teach my son to read more Chinese poems so that maybe one day he could be a wonderful poet. Back to you, Table Topic Master.
Thank you, Rainy. I saw that there is a poet right behind you. Is that your son?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Asian Chinese language is kind of difficult, but some of the Asian poem actually is still pretty easy to understand, and those are the ones that we are most familiar of. My next question is about attitude to poetry. I know some people love poetry and some people hate poetry. And I know we already know that our Toastmaster Matt Smithle doesn't like poetry that much, but I would like to call on another member, see what's his taste about poetry. May I ask Jay Parky? Jay Parky, would you like to take this question?
Yeah, please tell me. Yes.
Yes, please. Ooh, what happened to your image? You have green screen on?
Yeah. Is it okay?
That's kind of surreal to me. It's okay. Please just go ahead and tell us what do you think about poetry. You like it or hate it?
Yeah, I love poetry. I make poetry. It happens. I don't make it. So I don't do it every day. I don't do it every month. Maybe in last 20 years I would have done about 40 poems and published them. And they're well liked. What I would like, anything I try to learn is be versatile. So I do different type of poetries, and I look for an audience which loves them. I don't go on reciting to anyone and everyone. It's more of being in tune with ourselves, thinking loudly and putting our pen to paper so that all our thoughts, all our imaginations start coming to the paper. Sometimes I do edit, sometimes I do refine. Some poems I start with the punchline, and then the poems happen. So what happens is many a times I begin with an end in mind, and then start building upward towards the title of the poem. It usually used to happen, especially into boring corporate meetings. So I coined myself a pseudonym, and it was called Corporate Bard. So that's about what I feel about poetry, what I do about poetry, and what I like to read or listen to about poetry. One of my most favorite poet was W.H. Auden, and his poem was all that I have is a voice to undo the folded lies, the lie in the brain of the man on the street, whose the lie of authority, whose buildings scrape the sky. No one lives alone. Uh, if a bit, that was a kind of poem which is very long, but I used to recite that. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Jay. You have really in-depth understanding about poetry. I admire you. Well, I got this line from a movie called The Big Short. It says, "Truth like poetry, and most people hate poetry." Well, it seems most of our Toastmasters are quite poetic. So I would like to ask a volunteer to explain this line to me. Truth is like poetry, and most people hate poetry. May I have a volunteer? If I don't have a volunteer, I would like to call.
Madam Table Topics Master, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Volunteer. Actually, I have to call Adrianne because she is the first person raise the hand. Sorry, William. I give you a next question.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Isabel, that is a really good question. And a quote, because as I sit there and I ponder it, I think about one, poetry is very beautiful, but it can be very hard to understand or even get it. And two, I think what the part of the poem that you provided speaks more about people don't like the truth because it's very hard to hear the truth most of the time. And even though we say we want to hear the truth, it's very hard to give the truth as well as accept the truth. So I think a lot of what that is saying is poetry is truth, and there is, if you can diagnose it and dissect it and ponder it and think about it. At the same time, we live in a really busy world. Who has time to dissect all of that poetry stuff? I don't most of the time. And yes, it is very difficult to accept and hear the truth. But that's what I think that is saying is it's hard to accept the truth. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Adrianne. I like your explanation. I think it's very understandable. Okay, my next question goes to William. And this question is, it's about, it's something I read from a cartoon where a knife was sad and complained. Being a knife is lonely. Every time I get close to someone, they wind up getting cut in half. So this is a line from a cartoon. A lonely knife complained, life is lonely. Every time I get close to someone, they wind up getting cut in half. So, William, what do you have to say to the lonely knife?
Thank you, Maestro de la Tempest, Tamesa, fellow Toastmasters, future Toastmasters, Madam Table Topics Master. Life is a journey. We go forwards, sometimes we go backwards. Sometimes we get cut in half. Sometimes the knife pricks us and draws blood. What does that mean? Life can be difficult and life can be challenging. But there's one thing I've always remembered that my grandmother said to me from when I was a little boy. If you love yourself and you love others, nothing can pierce your soul. Nothing can harm you. You have an energy barrier protecting you, surrounding you, comforting you. It is like being in the sun. You don't get burned. It just heals you, and you absorb that energy. So, Madam Table Topics Master, I leave you with this. Knife, ha. Swords, ha. Spears, ha. They don't touch me. They don't affect me. I live. I live. I live. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, William. That was a great speech. I thought this is a tough question, but William, you are true. You have the true spirit of Toastmaster. You handled it so well, and thank you for the line you give me about attitude in life. Thank you. Who is our timer? Kind of had a mind bridge. Trisha, is Cheryl. How much time do we have to? How many questions can we run?
By my count, I think we have 20 whole minutes left.
Oh, we can have evaluation.
You can have more questions.
Okay, I will do my last 4. Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, next question. Have you ever traveled to a place you felt the place looked poetic? Actually, that's actually how I felt when I first time came to the United States. My plane landed at Reagan National Airport, and it was after midnight, and I had to take a shuttle to my friend's house, and I saw everything in the dark. I only see the silhouette of the buildings and trees. I thought it was so like poetic to me. Okay, so with this question, I would like to call another gentleman in the room. Is Rolando still here? Rolando, would you like to take this question? Have you ever traveled to a place you felt the place looked poetic?
Thank you, Madam Table Topic Master. Fellow Toastmaster, most welcome guests. If we think about poetic, if we think about storytelling, we think about expressing yourself. So of course, I've traveled many places that I enjoy seeing the beautiful looks, the beaches and the houses. A couple of weeks ago, I was on Marco Island, and I was so impressed with the water and the beaches. I wanted to stay there forever. So a lot of places that we go to, especially when we leave home to go visit other places, those places are so beautiful that they become poetic to us because they're expressing themselves. We can see that the beautiful stuff happening around them. So therefore, every places that you go, there is always a story to tell. There's always something to see or somebody to talk to or something to do. So you can always create something from the places that you go. So be open-minded wherever you go. Try to be friendly and talk to people. Think good things will happen and you'll have a good time. And we'll be able to come back home and write a poem about where you came from. Back to you, Madam Table Topic Master.
Thank you, Rolando. I think you must enjoy traveling a lot. I just have a question. Do you actually write poem? Rolando, do you actually write poem?
I don't write poem, but I say poem to myself when I am traveling. I will recite certain things. Okay. There was there is a feature, a contest in Miami with a zip code. Like based on your zip code, you can write poems. I've been practicing with that in my head while driving and stuff. So it's very exciting. So based on your zip code, you say a poem. Say if your for example, if your zip code is 33445, you write a poem with the first line with 3 words, second line with 3 words, third line with 4 words. So which many time, whatever number is your zip code, you write a poem with the number of lines, 5 lines with the number of number on your zip code, about many words. So I've been practicing with that to improve my craft.
Wow.
Back to you, Madam Topic Master.
Thank you. That sounds very mathematical and challenging to me. Well, I just noticed that today we have 11 participants, and excluding me, so we should have 10 speakers, and I just have 10 questions. What a coincidence. So our next question is another ancient Chinese poem. The poem says, "The sun beyond the mountains glows. The yellow river seawards flows. You can enjoy a grander sight by climbing to a greater height." With this question, I would like to call our guest, Sarah. Sarah, would you like to talk about this poem? Let me read this poem again. The sun beyond the mountains glows. The yellow river seawards flows. You can enjoy a grander sight by climbing to a greater height. Sarah. Sarah, are you there? Okay. If Sarah is not there, may I pass this question to Sunny?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. I love the part about the sun and I think you said the river?
Yeah, the
And
yellow river.
yes, and just climbing heights. It makes me think that it's our time to rise and shine. And we shine bright. And not only do we shine, but along the way, we polish others. So it's not always about rising and shining. It's how we polish others as we rise to where we get to go, to be in a better position to help others. And even with the river and its flowing, that's how our thoughts are. We flow with thoughts. We flow with inspiration. We flow with gratitude. And when you have a great gratitude, you have a great attitude. Look at me, I'm a poet and didn't even know it. But I like that poem. It sounds inspirational. I love the thought of being somewhere where I could see the sun shining and the river flowing. That's how life should be. We should be in the flow, in our strength zone. Sometimes we get out of our comfort zone, but we stay in our strength zone. So let us all rise and shine as we climb up higher. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster. I'm sorry, Table Topics Master.
Well, thank you, Sunny. I really enjoyed your poetic impromptu speech. My next question is about ancient poetry and modern poetry. Well, in Chinese, ancient poetry is written in ancient language. It's very different from the modern poetry. When I was in school, early days in China, we learned a lot of ancient Chinese poems. They were written in a such way they are very short, abstract, but very beautiful and powerful. Because they're so different from the poetry that's written in modern language. I never developed a taste for modern poetry, at least in Chinese. So I believe in English, we also have ancient poetry, for example, the ones that written by Shakespeare and versus the more modern time poetry. I would like to call someone to explain this further. Cheryl, would you like to talk about the difference between ancient poetry and the modern poetry?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. I knew you would get to me eventually. Ancient poetry in English is definitely different than modern poetry. I struggled with Shakespeare through school. We did study Shakespeare in grades 10, 11, and 12, but I loved it anyway. I had teachers every time who would translate it into our modern language so teenagers could understand what Shakespeare was trying to say. The problem is when I go back and read some of those plays again, like Romeo and Juliet and Macbeth and Hamlet, I don't remember some of those explanations, and therefore I have to come up with my own. I hope that I'm translating it in my brain what he meant with his pen. I've also read some Longfellow and other poets like that, find them very difficult to understand, a real challenge to my mind. On the other hand, modern poetry I find easier to relate to because it's instantaneous understanding. At least I think it is. Sometimes you read them one day, you get a different interpretation from what you might read the next day. Modern poetry is something that I've lived with. Growing up, my mother wrote poems, most of them humorous. For example, she would write a Christmas letter describing the family's entire year, all in rhyme. I've taken up a little bit of that myself, but I can never hope to challenge her, and I certainly would never be able to challenge those ancient poets like William Shakespeare. There's quite a difference, and they're both beautiful. They both have a place in our study of language. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Cheryl. I'm in awe with your mother's ability to write a whole holiday events in poetry. Well, I know that must be, great poets can write even better, but I don't, they are so far away. But when I'm looking at you, I feel like your mother is so close to me. I really admire her. But since I already went through all the participants today, I'm going to return my virtual podium back to our Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you so much, Isabel. What a magnificent job that you have done, getting all of those questions in preparation for us to think on our feet. Thank you so much. Now it's time for our final session, and that would be evaluation. We get feedback, and I'd like to introduce our general evaluator, Tricia. Tricia?
Thank you, Sunny. As you said, and it's one of the most important parts of the Toastmaster meeting is our evaluation session. First, I'll be calling our single evaluator this evening, William, who'll be evaluating Adrianne's speech. Please help me welcome William.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, future Toastmasters. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. And especially Toastmaster Adrianne. Adrianne, I loved your speech. In fact, I did this manual, and this manual is a tough one to do. So, what did Adrianne do well? She asked questions. She asked her client what it specifically kind of vacuum that she's looking for. If it's an upright, or is it one with a long cord? Or do other people outside of her use it? Adrianne, the one thing I said again in the evaluation I gave you earlier, I said one thing that I definitely like that you did. That one thing I mentioned to you, I definitely like that. You didn't have the product to help her, but you knew someone that did have the product to help her, and you introduced her to that person. Taking a chance of losing a client, very, very risky, but it was wonderfully played. If I was a client coming into your store and you gave me that piece of advice, I'd come back and buy something else from your store because you were helpful. You encouraged the client to make a great decision. You were persuasive. You were poetic in your questions. You were poetic in your delivery, and you were poetic in your closing. Overall, great speech. Difficult one to do, very difficult manual to do. You did it with a plum, and I give you a AAA+ for your efforts. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you so much, William. I'll now be calling on our Toastmasters that helped us with this meeting tonight for their reports. First report I will call on is our grammarian, Rolando.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. The word for tonight was poetic, and we have a lot of people that use the word poetic, and derivation of poetic was poem, was poetry itself. So a lot of people use poetic one way or the other. And also I was impressed with Adrianne's speech. She used a lot of beautiful language, such as unwanted solicitor knock at your home door. That caught my attention because every Saturday morning when I'm sleeping in, I'm thinking that is somebody knocking on my door, you know? So when she said that, that thought came to my mind. She also said virtually impossible to avoid. And the other thing that caught my attention was at one point in your life, I realized that as an engineer, I thought once I go to school, I get the degree, I should be fine. But Adrianne said, you either selling for your organization or you're selling for yourself. So that's, I wish I learned that early on in my life, that you have to sell yourself, regardless of what you do, to be successful. So I learned a lot from her speech. And overall, we all did well, very well, a lot of good table topics, so many good languages that I couldn't even keep track of those languages, all those nice poems that our table topics master entrusted us with. So it was good night with language. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Rolando. And next, I would like to call on our timer, Cheryl. How do we do with our time this evening?
Well, I'm not used to it moving so quickly in this one. Our opening introductions were 8 minutes, and our Toastmaster of the day has taken probably less than 4. Now our speaker, our prepared speaker, had 12 minutes. She was finished in 11 minutes and 21 seconds. Our many table topic speakers all met the criteria with 2 minutes and 2 minutes 30 seconds eliminating you. Tricia was 110, Matt 119, Rainey 144, Jay 2 minutes 17, Adrianne 1 minute and 18, William 134, Rolando 126, Sunny 120, and I was 155. Our one evaluator, William, was very efficient at 2 minutes and 18 seconds. So far, that's all I've timed because Rolando, I'm sorry, I forgot. I probably should have been timing you. I've been 1 minute and 5 seconds. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you. All right, and back to William for our chat monitor report.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Chat monitor report. Well, the most interesting thing I could find is everybody enjoyed Adrianne's speech. It was well prepared. It was well thought out. It was one of the most difficult manuals in the advanced series. And I will tell you, if you ever do this manual, you really have to do your homework. It's not an easy manual to go through. So be prepared if you choose to do this manual. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you so much. Well, now is the time where I'll be giving my overall view of the meeting. I have launched the poll, so you can go ahead and choose your thoughts on the meeting while I give mine. I think that our meeting mostly started on time. I think we might have been actually a bit early this evening, which is not necessarily a bad thing. And even though we had a small turnout, I thought it was an excellent meeting. We had a really interesting speech, great evaluation, and wonderful table topics. So It didn't matter that it was only a small number, it still was a very effective and wonderful meeting. I appreciate you all for coming. I will continue to run the poll here, and we'll head the meeting back to our Toastmaster today, and I'll give her the results once they're complete.
Thank you very much. And again, I echo, what a great meeting, and especially in light of the fact that we only had one speaker and many table topics. Hands down, Isabel held the fort down. Let's just give Isabel a hand, because that took a lot of preparation. She did it in light of this theme, and I love this theme. I remember that April is National Poetry Month. I am not really someone who's into poems as much, but I hang around poetry, people who are into poetry, and I appreciate it. There's some beauty in poetry. I was particularly struck by Rolando's opportunity to share something about poetry based on your zip code. So mine is like 39208, and so that's interesting. Rolando, I'm going to get back to you. And I have to just read a haiku by Professor J that he put in the chat. I can't quite see it, but I thought it said pencil, a haiku. Magical morning, a red charming pencil looks whilst watching the stone. A haiku dedicated to the table topics master. Thank you for a wonderful topic today. How poetic, poetic justice. I really thank you for that. So, Trisha, we had so many table topic people today. Do we have the results yet? Let's see. You want to read it, Trisha?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, here is the results of our poll. 63 of us percent thought today's meeting was awesome. Great. And our favorite prepared speaker, Adrianne. It's really easy to be favorite speaker when you only for our table topic, which was much more competent. Our favorite was Sunny. Good job, Sunny. And Cheryl and Jay, it looks like tied for second. And our our favorite evaluator, drum roll please, was William. Thank you, William. And our favorite facilitator today was our wonderful table topic master, Isabel. Yay! And see, our people's choice was our very beautiful Vice President of Education, Sunny.
I was still wondering. Thank you.
I will turn the meeting back up to you.
Okay. Well, folks, it's been a great meeting. We missed our president. We hope that he will return on next week. In the meantime, speaking of next week, I just want to take a quick opportunity to let you know that we are graced by the lovely, beautiful Isabel Kadori as Toastmaster of the day next week. And whenever you have the Toastmaster, you have that person that is going to come up with another theme and work with the grammarian and table topics master for next week. Let's see if we have a table topics master. It is open. So if you would like to help others perfect answering questions on the quick, please sign up for Table Topics Master for next week. We also have a speaker role open. We do have two speakers, William and Rainey. Looking forward to that next week. So folks, a couple of roles still available: grammarian, body language monitor, chat monitor. Timer is Trisha Grow. Thank you for doing that. And we also have the inspiration. So if you're a new member or you just want a small but significant role, try the inspiration role. So with that, are there any guests? Did we have any guests today? I thought we had one, but I'm looking right now and I don't see anybody. But if you'd like to just, Isabel, how did you feel about today? Because you did such a magnificent role in being a poetic table topics master. Isabel?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I say I usually don't feel very good. I always thought, I have so much more to improve, and I look up to everybody. I think everyone speaks much more fluently, and I could learn from everybody. Well, thank you. Back to you.
Thank you so much. And don't forget, that's why we are here. It's what I love about Toastmasters, the ability to grow as leaders and speakers in a supportive environment. And that is so important. If you want to be persuasive about something and you want to sell something, you sell your colleagues on the benefits of Toastmasters for helping you speak better, lead better. And when we speak and lead better, we can help others to speak and lead better. So kudos to you, Isabel, for your always coming up with some great questions and wanting us to grow as well. So thank you very much. Cheryl, I think your name was mentioned. Any closing thoughts?
I've been in Toastmasters a number of years, and this is an extraordinary club. Even with only 8 members, what a fantastic meeting. And again, I want to add my congratulations to Isabel. Every single question inspired thoughtfulness and some amusing speeches, such as Matt's, but also a lot of information coming out about our members when we have questions that really challenge us like that. So great job as Toastmaster, Sunny, and to everyone who came. We all got to speak tonight. It's a great concept. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to comment? We still have a couple of minutes before we're over. We ended. Aaron would be proud of us. Our president would be proud of us.
Yes, Madam President, I have one thing I'd like to say, if I may. Okay, fellow Toastmasters, future Toastmasters, I am starting a club, a new Toastmasters club, online Toastmasters club. It will be meeting April 25th and 26th. Those will be our 2 days for demo meetings. I am looking for a few people to help out with the demo meetings. The first one will be at 6:45 a.m., which is the Friday, which will be the 26th. The 25th, the demo meeting will be that would be a Thursday. That would be 6:45 p.m. to 8 p.m. And the one on Friday will be 6:45 a.m. to 8 a.m. If you're available either day, shoot me a message and let me know what role you like to do, and I'll put you down.
Thank you so much, William. Is that Central Time or Eastern Time?
That is Eastern Daylight Savings.
Woo, that's very early in the morning for me. 5:45. Woo-hoo. I will see what I can do, sir. Okay, with that, my fellow Toastmasters, in light of the end of the meeting, it's really been poetry in motion being with you tonight. I have been pretty busy over the last couple of months helping to charter a club. We're in the final stages, so I may miss one more meeting, but I count it all joy tonight to be with you and to just hear us improve and hear us give thoughtful answers, just like Cheryl said. So I'm not going to prolong you any longer. I just wanted to say thank you so much. And remember, Toastmasters is where leaders are made and we compete with ourselves. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
See you next week.
Yeah.